I'm Amy Jo Martin. Welcome to the Why Not Now show. You know that thing you've been thinking about doing? Yeah, that one. Why not now? Have you ever actually taken the time to ask yourself, what's stopping me? Let's talk it through. This is your chance to give that idea the attention it deserves and take action. Each episode, I have a chat with a fascinating person, from entrepreneurs to athletes, celebrities, my parents, rocket scientists, and all walks of life. We talk through a critical time when they've asked themselves, why not now? We dissect that day or even that moment, step by step. Super special show today. We have Aleena Valdez, who is 13 years old. She's an entrepreneur and incredible mind. And Frances Hesselbein, who is the former CEO of Girl Scouts of America, and she is 101 years old. I can't wait for you to hear from these two. We all have people who inspire us and people who we turn to when we need inspiration. Aleena is one of those individuals for me. She's an entrepreneur, a philanthropist, and she happens to be 13 years old. We met a couple of years ago when she was 11, and we've been working together for the past couple of years. You don't meet too many social entrepreneurs who are 11 years old, but when I met Aleena, I knew that there was something special there. And we have this dynamic where, there's mutual respect, but I learn just as much from her as she does from me. So I call it a co-mentorship. Aleena's super resourceful. We co-hosted a young girls leadership and empowerment conference this last year, and we have two more coming up this year, one in Austin and one in Phoenix. And she's so resourceful. She created the website herself. We had sponsorship decks that she created, invited the mayor, you name it. She even spoke at the conference as well as hosted it. And she's just pretty fascinating. You'll hear quite a few different tidbits about her story, which I think this is just as valuable as a conversation with Mark Cuban. If you're looking to do something and you need a little motivation or inspiration, this is it. And I think it is important to mention, too, that Aleena plays quarterback on the boys' flag football team. So here's Aleena. Before we hop into this episode, let me fill you in on a little secret of mine. That's Headspace. It's a guided meditation app, and I never imagined that doing something for 10 minutes a day could increase my quality of life so much. I've always struggled with knowing when to make things happen versus when to let things happen. Sometimes things go very well when I push on the gas, and sometimes not so much. It gets me into trouble. Headspace has helped me with learning how to trust my intuition. And I've tried meditation off and on for years. It's never stuck, but this time it has. I've made a very intentional shift in my morning routine, and that's to wake up, have my coffee, do Headspace, journal, and then I check my email, my social media, all of my devices. It's been a big shift, but great result. My aunt used to say, don't let anything rent space in your head for free. That's valuable real estate. Headspace allows me to be a much better landlord of my thoughts, especially first thing in the morning. You can go to headspace.com/why not now for a free trial. And if you stick around to the end of the show, I'll tell you how you can get a month for free. Aleena Valdez, welcome to the show. How are you doing today, Aleena?
I'm doing good, Amy. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for coming on. It's wonderful to have you join me on the show, and I'm excited for the listeners to hear your story too.
Thank you so much for having me on here.
Absolutely. So we will hop right in, and we'll start off by having you share a time that you just had to ask yourself, why not now? And this could be anything that comes to mind. Then it's a time when you had a decision to make of whether or not you were going to do something. And we'll dive into it and talk it through the details of it. What that looked like for you, we'll just zoom in. So can you think of a time when you asked yourself, why not now?
It was actually before I had the lemonade stand, and I've had a small little setup before that I would do with my two neighbors. And I wasn't too serious about it like I am now. And I've always wanted to help kids in some way, but I never really knew how. And when I told my dad this, he told me that you're never too young to change the world. And that's when I asked myself, why not now? And that's kind of how all of my lemonade stand business started.
Wow. So that you had bit of a little company before you have your official business now. So when you had this first company that you weren't as serious about, what happened the day that you asked yourself, why not now? Do you remember where you were and what you were doing?
I was sitting down at the table doing some homework for school, and my dad was in the kitchen making dinner. And I asked him if I could set up a lemonade stand again, but actually have it serious, like more serious than it was before.
And that was the moment. And so you talked it through with him, with your dad?
Yeah, I talked it through about what I wanted to sell, and I told him about my idea of snow cones selling at the lemonade stand too, and he said that I had to put together a PowerPoint presentation about how much the snow cones would cost, how much would it be to make them, and how much I would sell them for.
And was this when you were 10 or 11?
This was when I was 11.
11, and now you're 12, and you'll be 13 in December, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you have sat down with your dad, and he said, okay, you can first put together a presentation and show me how you're going to do this, and then we'll talk about it again. And so did you do the presentation?
Yes, I did do the presentation, and I finished the PowerPoint in about 2 to 3 days tops, and I was actually really nervous if he would say yes or no, and then after I presented to him, he said, yes, you could start selling snow cones and have this business.
Wow. And in the presentation, what did you include? And I'm asking for the listeners because I've seen the presentation. I saw it a year plus ago, I guess, and it was impressive. But will you share a little bit about what was inside of that PowerPoint presentation?
So, of course, it had the snow cones, the different snow cone machines, and how much it would cost, and the link to the website, which was Amazon. And
For the materials, for the equipment? Okay.
Yeah, and that including straws, the cups for it, and what benefits it would have, an ice shaver would have on my business, and also a website and a banner for it, and how the profit I would make from it, and then all the math from that, and even more slides.
Which is really interesting that you thought and you knew how to project this and think it through step by step. When it was time to do that, did you know what to include, or did your dad help you? Did you just kind of guess and you knew, okay, it makes sense to add how much it costs and where I'm going to get the equipment and why I'm getting the equipment? Did you do this on your own?
I had some help with my dad. I mostly did like how much the materials, how much it would be, and then the website it was from, and my dad helped me with the math part.
That's great. And so you're off to the races. And Will you share a little bit about what was involved with this lemonade stand? Because it wasn't just for profit, right? But there was some profit. So, what did you do with the money?
With the money received, a portion of it is donated to the Phoenix Children's Hospital to help kids with cancer.
And whose idea was that?
It was my idea because I've always wanted to help kids, and with my lemonade stand, that's definitely a way that I could donate money and show and support them.
And that's pretty incredible. How much have you raised and donated for the Phoenix Children's Hospital so far?
Last year in the lemonade stand, with the lemonade stand, we have raised and donated over $400 just from the lemonade stand alone. And I partnered with my school to set up a fundraiser during September since it was Childhood Cancer Awareness Month for $1 for free dress. And that's all the money total from that fundraiser was above $700. And this year it's around $400 from the lemonade stand alone.
Congratulations, Aleena. That's amazing.
Thank you.
And I've had the privilege of watching your journey over the last year and a half or so in just working with you and keeping in close touch. And I've seen a lot of growth and lessons that you've learned and applied. What would you say is your number one learning from all of this, from having your company, which is a legitimate company that's registered too, by the way? So what's your biggest lesson?
Well, other than you're never trying to change the world, it would probably be people would always say that you're just a kid or just a girl, and that they'll portray you in a certain way. And I just want to show them that this is actually really serious, and I'm going to continue doing this.
Good for you. Good for you. Back to that day where you decided, why not now? Was there any part of you that thought, well, maybe I shouldn't do this? And how did you convince yourself, if there was?
I did think about it a lot. Just if I was thinking of, should I start it now or is it too early? Am I too young for this? And that's when I realized, once my dad told me you're never too young to change the world, that's when I realized that I could start doing this now and I could be a role model to other kids.
That's very encouraging and great to hear as well. I'm so glad that you did. And tell us a little bit about the conference that just held in Phoenix not too long ago. What was it? Why did you have this conference? I obviously know the answer, but I would love for the listeners to hear.
The conference that I set up is called Girls for Progress, which is a conference to empower girls in the community. And we had 3 main goals for that, which were, our first goal was to help girls be aware of their social surroundings. And our second goal was to inspire them to make a difference in their community. And our third and final goal was to support each other while we're doing these amazing things.
And how did it go?
It went really well. There was a lot of people that showed up and a lot of girls that showed up too. There could have been a few things done differently, but out of everything, the girls, before they left, told me that they really loved it and they can't wait for the next one. So that's definitely encouraging.
It was encouraging to see all the feedback and hear all the feedback from the girls and their parents. And I'm fortunate to have been there to witness this all happen. You did a great job with hosting and speaking in front of all of those girls. And it was a big room of people. And tell us a little bit about the talk you gave.
The talk I gave it was called Just a Girl. And I was talking about speaking to the girls that about my story through flag football and how people have been portraying me because I'm a girl, but really I'm more than just a girl, and I could do things that guys could do. And it also talked about equal pay between men and women, and then how to show them that you're not just a girl.
And you had a calculation, didn't you? Do you remember? You don't need to know the numbers exactly, but what did you show in your calculation? What was also cool was that the mayor was there, and he came, showed up, talked to all of the girls, and it was really inspiring to show that he was interested in the conference and supportive, and having the city sponsor the conference was very cool too.
Yes, the mayor did come, and I was so happy. And I've been working with the mayor's office with for the conference, and then having him there was amazing.
So, Aleena, I think it's also important and really neat to mention that you, along with your dad, you built your own website, right? And set up the registration platform and created everything for this conference. And you planned it. We had meetings with the mayor's office and meetings with sponsors and speakers, and great lesson and opportunity for you to go through that process.
Yeah, it was the website. I think definitely helped people get more engaged, and it with all the meetings and everything, it was kind of stressful towards when it was getting closer, but it was worth it.
So, if you want, it might be kind of cool to walk through the calculation or just talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, so the the calculation was Bob gets paid $65,000 a year, and I get paid 54% of that, of what Bob makes, which is $35,100, and that's 29,900 less than Bob per year. Times that by 35 years of working before we both retire, and Bob has made over $1 million more than I did.
And that's pretty incredible, isn't it? And how did you get the
Yeah.
54%? So you would get paid 54% of what Bob makes. And how did you get to that 54%?
Cause I am a Hispanic woman, and they only get paid 54% of what a man makes.
Okay. So that's pretty incredible when we think about breaking it down that way. If you work just as hard and are doing the same job and even producing the same results, if not better, get paid over the course of 35 years $1 million less. That's pretty incredible. So what you're doing right now, Aleena, is very important work, and I'm really glad to be supporting you, but also I'm so impressed and inspired by the persistence and drive you have, but also your humble nature. And being at the conference and having all of those young girls line up to even get your autograph was pretty
Yeah.
neat to see. Yeah. What are your thoughts on equal pay? And when you hear, a lot of conversation and on the TV and adults talking about equal pay, what is your stance?
I believe that men and women should be paid equally, because it's no reason that men should be paid more than women are when we're all supposed to be equal.
I agree with you. And what would you say to any girl or woman who is maybe struggling with the confidence they need to ask for equal pay?
I would say probably just make sure you you're really committing to what you're trying to say and trying to convince them.
Really committed to it and you really believe
Yeah.
in yourself type thing?
Mhm.
That's good advice. It's very important because you can't fake it, can you? It will totally show through. And with your future, Aleena, what do you see yourself doing in the next 10 to 20 years? You could do anything you want. What do you think you'll be doing? What do you want to do?
Just to continue to do what I love and help and be a mentor to kids and girls like how you are for me.
I love to hear that. And you've mentored me too, believe it or not. I've learned just as much from you. So thank you. It's an equal value exchange, and I'm very grateful. And with all the questions that the young girls at the conference asked you, what was most surprising, or what was something that you wouldn't have imagined?
I think I wouldn't have imagined that they would one of the parents spoke for advice for their daughter on how she was kind of like me and she was shy. And that's when I realized that I need to spread the message that you're never too young to change the world out to all these girls.
So you were also surprised to hear that other people can be shy too, but it was your opportunity to help them because you've been in the same boat. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yes.
Great. Yeah, I remember that question too. And I think it really helped for a lot of the young girls to come up and take their microphone and show that they could stand up and speak too, just like you were. So to wrap up, I have a why not now question for you, but it's about the future. Is there anything right now that you've been thinking about doing and you haven't yet, and it's time for you to ask yourself, why not now?
Yes, I have. I've actually spoke to you about it, and it's an app that kids could help kids using the app, which is like they could use any of their talents or skills. Like an example, I like to play flag football and or basketball too. And the app could allow kids to help other kids. And when they use the app, they'll get donations or pledges from people. And for an example, I like to play football, so and me and my little brother like to play football. So we would, for my little brother, let's say my parents say that if he makes a certain amount of touchdowns, then he'll get this amount of money to donate to a charity he would like. Then if he reaches that goal, then he'll be able to donate to a charity he would like to.
I love that. And so you would get to decide based on what you were interested in, where that money goes, and you would be incentivized to perform and do your best because you would want to help the charity or the cause that you're supporting. Is that right?
Yes, it is.
That's exciting. And I've been thinking about this too since you presented it to me to begin with. And what are the very first steps? How would you make this happen?
I think the first steps is to ask people around my school or just around the neighborhood and ask them if they would use the app and see if the kids would like it, and then continue from there.
So you're doing a little market research of your own, aren't you? That's smart. That's smart to get feedback before you go running down the road. And it's a little harder to do that once you're pretty far down. Trust me. I've run into that before. So very cool. I'm excited to follow along and see where this goes. And do you have any thoughts on names so far for the app?
I have not thought of any names yet, but that will be coming soon.
Okay, I look forward to that. Maybe we could even crowdsource those, or you could come up with your top couple and see what your social media following has
Yeah.
to say. So, to wrap us up, the very, very final portion of our interview
Mhm.
includes some rapid fire questions. So, that means I'll ask you a question and you can just tell me what your answer is, and then we'll move on to the next one. And it's
Okay.
kind of fun. What's your all-time favorite book, or what are you reading right now?
I'm reading right now at school. It's Divergent, and at home I'm reading "You Let Some Girl Be You" by the story of Anne Myers Drysdale. And I don't think I have an all-time favorite book.
That's okay. And so the Anne Myers Drysdale, you were able to meet her, weren't you?
Yes, I was able to meet her, and she was really nice and friendly.
Yeah, and did you learn anything from her?
I did learn a lot of things from her, especially kind of through like the just a girl part. When she played in the NBA, that when she was telling me her story about this, I told her I was kind of going through this through flag football. And she just told me to make sure you prove them wrong and to continue to love what you're doing.
What position do you play again?
On defense, I play safety, and this Saturday I might play quarterback on some plays.
Oh, really? What determines that?
Just whether or not if my throws have been getting better, because we usually practice like in half an hour before the game.
Oh, okay. And then you decide whether or not you're going to play safety or QB.
Yeah.
Which do you like more?
I like safety because being on defense best because it's just I like pulling the flags and trying to intercept the ball.
Right on. Are you the only girl? I can't remember. Is there another one this year?
This year there is another girl on my team.
And last year you were the only one, so maybe you encouraged her.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And she's on your team. Are there any other girls on the other teams?
There's probably one girl on each team, maybe like 3 or 4 teams that don't have a girl.
Nice. I'm glad that you're doing this. It sounds like you're having a lot of fun. That's awesome. I got to work with Anne a little bit when I worked for the Phoenix Suns and the Phoenix Mercury, and she's pretty impressive. And I was fortunate to hear her talk a little bit, and just really fortunate to learn from her and witness her in action. So I'm really glad you were able to meet her. Okay, next question. Is there anything that keeps you up at night?
On Fridays before the games, the flag football games on Saturday, that kind of keeps me up a little because I'm always a little nervous.
A little nervous. And then is there any tricks or anything you do to overcome that?
I just like to calm myself down and practice before the game day. So like today I was practicing and just calm down and don't let my nerves overcome me.
Gotcha. That's good. That's good. And really important question here. Aleena, are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Pirates or ninjas? Which is tougher?
I think ninjas because the first thing that pops into my head is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and how they stay in the shadows and then they could kind of get like a head start.
So they're definitely smarter. I do agree with you on that. Which makes them probably, in some cases, a little more tough and successful. And the last question is, what advice would you give to your younger self?
To my younger self, to never be afraid to ask questions. because that's how it all started with the lemonade stand, and now I have the conference and then the lemonade stand and a lot more things.
And it all started with asking a question. And you asked
Mm-hmm.
yourself, why not now, right?
Yep.
And with that, I guess, is there any advice you think that your older self would give to you now?
Advice I think my older self will give to me now is probably just to continue what I'm doing and don't get too stressed out.
I agree with your older self, and I'm going to take that advice too. I think that's really sound advice. You're wise beyond your years, Aleena. So thank you so much for joining me on the show, Aleena.
Thank you so much again, Amy, for having me here.
I had an incredible conversation with Frances Hesselbein. She is full of wisdom, and we took some time to chat, and I've pulled out a couple of key moments. This was one of my favorite moments when we talked about pirates or ninjas, but also the advice she would give to her younger self. Here's someone who has seen and done a lot of things. She's lived on this planet for 101 years. And I think it's cool to think about some of the alignment between what Aleena just shared with us and what Frances will share as well. So here's just a small clip. I plan to share other portions of my conversation with Frances later on down the road. I just thought this was a really cool juxtaposition, and it speaks volumes for how age really doesn't matter. Next question. Pirates or ninjas? Which is tougher?
I can't answer that because I'm not familiar enough with either of them. And maybe the question is not which group is the toughest. Which group is making the greatest difference?
I like that. That's a good answer. Thank you. It's the best answer.
You. Thank you, Amy Jo.
Okay, Frances, last question. What would you tell your younger self?
What would I tell my younger self? Always have one inspiring challenge that you keep close. Always have something beyond you, being successful in your job, making lots of money, whatever it is, recognition, wealth, whatever. I would set that aside. I think the question is, every night when I go to bed, I say, what did you do today that made a difference in someone's life? If the answer is, well, I didn't do anything for anyone else, but I certainly was successful in doing things for myself, wrong answer. Go back to the beginning. At the end of the day, what did you do that made a difference in someone else's life, an organization's life, or country's life?
Wow, that's a wonderful final thought there. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you so much for your time with me today.
Well, Amy Jo, it was a great pleasure. And anytime you're in New York, remember Park Avenue. And we'll have breakfast, lunch, or coffee.
That sounds like a plan. I will take you up
Good.
on that. I want to hear what your why not now is. Please share it with me on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook at Amy Jo Martin. I'll send a signed copy of my New York Times best-selling book, Renegades Write the Rules to the first 200 people who listen, rate, and leave an honest review of the podcast in iTunes. And you'll also get a free month subscription from our friends at Headspace. This is only available to Why Not Now listeners. Once you've left a rating and review on iTunes, just email your iTunes handle name and your mailing address to whynotnow@amyjomartin.com, and we'll get your package in the mail to you. For detailed show notes, head to amyjomartin.com/whynotnow. That's where you'll find links to things we discussed on the show, special offers, and how you can keep in touch with guests. Hat tip to my buddies Ash and Devin at Rock Salt Music for our tunes today. You just listened to the talented John Coggins in Let's Go and Let It Ride. And a jump high five to my talented husband, Richard Greer, for producing the show and being patient with me. See you next time. Until then, why not now?